Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the franchipreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And as we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today. We're meeting with the founder of Smart Tax Franchise Opportunity, Nick Rizzi. And Smart Tax is a franchise opportunity that differentiates itself from the rest by delivering top-quality professional services while allowing franchisees to focus more on quality of life. Hey, Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, Nick. Nick, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and I know, Don, you wanted to say good morning to Nick.
Yep, Nick, we appreciate you coming on. It's perfect timing with, obviously, tax season. I think Marty says you're a Brooklyn boy, huh? Same with my father. He grew up there.
Yes, he did. Well, I am a Brooklyn boy. I was born in Italy, but raised in Brooklyn, like a lot of Italians are.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic, Nick. Yeah, I'm actually from Carroll Gardens myself, Nick, who I'm sure you're familiar with, you know. So,
yeah, absolutely. When our first office is actually not too far from Carroll Gardens.
Oh, isn't that amazing? Wow.
There you go.
Well, I think we've only had 2 guests in 3.5 years from Brooklyn, you know. So, Don and I were both excited to have you on the show today, you know. But, Nick, what were you doing before starting Smart Tax? I know it's a great story. I was reading a little bit about your bio, and it's just a fascinating entrepreneurial story.
Right. I'm a financial planner by trade. I've been doing it for about 16 years now. The way I got started, quite frankly, I was sitting at my desk. I was working at a local bank there, and a bus went by, and it said, learn to do taxes. And me being a financial planner, I thought to myself, gee, I should learn to do taxes. That might come in handy.
That's fantastic.
Took the class, realized it was a great business to get into, get involved with, and here we are.
That's amazing. Yeah, it is. It's a great story.
So how soon did you open up a couple locations? Did you know right from the start that you wanted to franchise this concept? You know, talk about the history a little bit, Nick.
Yeah, sure. Well, like I said, the bus went by, I took the class, and while I was sitting in that class, and it was, a couple of months or 2 or 3 months worth of classes, you started asking questions. How many returns does an average office do? How much do they charge for an average return? And you start to do the math, and you realize, well, gee, this is a pretty good business. And along with that, you've always heard of the guy who works 4 months out of the year, but you've never actually met him.
That's true.
Right? So one day, that guy walked in my bank, and sure enough, he had a nice-sized bank account, and inevitably you get to talk to me if you do. And you got to talking to him, and it just bolstered the fact that this is a good business to get into. And after taking the classes, I worked for a tax preparer for a season and decided, you know what, I want to get into this business. Called around to the other franchise systems, realized the territories were all sold out where I wanted to open, and decided, well, either way, with or without them, I figured this would be a good business to get into. And we did. We opened up our first store. Funny story about that is, I was a financial planner. I was making relatively good money, I thought. And one day I was newly married at the time, and I kind of sit there and with my wife, and I go, you know what, this is what I want to do. And then you tell her, and she's on board, but then you have to announce this to the in-laws, right? And basically, this is what the story sounds like when you announce it to the in-laws. I'm making good money, suit and tie guy at a bank. I'm going to quit that job. I'm going to open up a store. I've not done tax returns in any kind of volume, but I'm thinking the people there will show up, and I'm only going to work 4 months out of the year.
That's fantastic.
As you can imagine, the in-laws weren't too thrilled with that. What did my daughter do to herself? And, we had success the first year. We had success the second year. We opened up a few more stores.
Wow.
And as that grew, friends and family who'd been asking me how it's going all along the way started saying, well, gee, can you help me open one? And I said, sure, why not? And we tacked on a few of those, and then I realized, gee, I need to be a franchise. I need to put this together in a formal way. And here we are. We've been franchising literally since November of 2009. And this is our first tax. Within a month or two, we had 8 franchisees. So we're on our way.
Did it make you mentioned that you looked at other franchise companies, was all sold out. I mean, obviously there's a lot of competition. That scare you at all, starting up your own tax business and franchising, knowing there's a lot of competition?
Well, yeah, right. I mean, I did an exhausting amount of research in my area anyway. And just to look at it at a national level, there are 160 million tax returns filed a year in the U.S., 60% of which use paid preparers. And the big guys, the H&R Block and Jackson Hewitt of the crew, they only represent 23% of the market. The rest is very fragmented with mom and pop type locations.
That's right.
So I figured I can do this better than the next guy. At least I thought. And yeah, I guess I did because people responded and they showed up. It didn't scare me because I knew it was out there. I knew it was a need. You've heard the saying "death and taxes." I really don't want to be a mortician, so here we are. And sure enough, in January, everybody's looking for me.
Yeah, you talk about the market being huge, Nick. I mean, it is a huge market. I mean, it really is incredible. And Don and I spent a lot of time, looking for those recession-proof type of franchises, and I'd probably, and you could say it if you like, I would classify this as a recession-proof type of franchise, wouldn't you say? I mean, even when the economy is bad, as you were saying, you still have to file your taxes, don't you?
Absolutely. Arguably, we've had the worst unemployment in quite a while. I don't know. They say a generation or so, but we've had 9.7 I think is where it is right now.
Yes.
And my current locations have grown in volume. The franchisees that have opened up a shop have obviously seen customers come in, and I can't imagine this being worse when it gets better. People will forever need to get their taxes done unless they pass some kind of wacky law that doesn't make us pay taxes anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, those laws are always changing too, I guess, Nick, aren't they? As far as tax laws, you're on top of that more than I am, But I think it is, of course, one of the advantages of using a service like yourself too. It's because these laws change. And I guess when someone is filing unemployment for the first time, that's a new type of tax form too, isn't it? So.
Right. It's something that you might not be used to filling out. You know what? And the new legislation that has come through will only add forms. I know. For example, the health care. You have to indicate at some point whether you have health care or not. Well, gee, guess where you're going to have to indicate that, and that inevitably will be another form of some kind that people will have to deal with and look for someone like myself or my franchisees to help them with.
So how do you explain, Nick, the Smart Tax franchise system to a potential buyer?
Well, like I said, I looked into a franchise system or was looking into franchise systems before I built one, and inevitably, I made mistakes my first year or two. Now, the mistakes that I made were I just didn't know. Not so much that I was foolish or I was just ignorant. I didn't know how to do it. What we've been able to put together is, a complete marketing plan. One of the questions that we have in our business is, gee, what banks do we align ourselves with? One of the other important things is, where do you open up? Do you is it on Main Street? Is it off the corner of Main Street? Where would get you the most customers? Mm-hmm. That stuff we've learned, we've figured out. We've partnered with people that can help us with that. How do you hire a staff? How do you train a staff? How do you manage a staff? Those are very important things. And quite frankly, if you're opening up your own, pizza shop or tax preparation service, well, how do you do that? So franchising is key to that. And for the amount of money that one pays for a franchise system, quite frankly, I've easily spent more money trying to figure that out than a franchise system would have cost me.
Right.
So having built and put together a system like this one, I would say if you're thinking about going into a business, if you like the tax preparation business, look into a franchise. It'll save you a lot of heartache and pain, and hopefully you look at ours.
Yeah, it sounds like you worked with some pretty important people too in franchising too, Nick. I saw there was a Steve Beagleman. I guess you were working with him. As far as the whole franchising thing goes, and we had Steve on our show, didn't we, Don?
Yeah, I know Steve pretty well, and I see him at the franchise shows. Probably see him this weekend. And we even had John Hewitt on the show a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, so we've worked with a lot of them, But Steve, I mean, he's just again, when we had him on the show, we put him in we have this what's called Great Quotes in Franchising, Nick. And he had a couple of really wonderful quotes. He's just very knowledgeable. Probably one of the, I don't want to embarrass him, but one of the most knowledgeable people I've met when it comes to franchising. So I think that's someone really great to work with.
I could probably say, without reservation, that Steve is one of the reasons, the main reason that we're able to get ourselves up and running and look as good as we do, in such a short period of time. I started having, franchise conversations maybe this time last year. And bringing someone like Steve on board really, a lot of head scratching went away because Steve was there to guide us through and take us to the next level. Just the resources that he brings to the table is invaluable.
Yeah, because it
Marty,
is a
we got to
different
make
animal.
sure we send Steve an invoice for this.
There you go. But it is a different animal too, Nick, and I'm sure you're learning that too as you go along. You know, you know, the tax thing. You have the system down, and once you get into franchising, then that becomes another big venture, I guess, you know, in dealing with your franchisees and things like that too. You know, so.
Yeah, without question. One of the things that, you know, Steve and Gary and Julie, who's my lawyer, he pointed out, this is not the tax business. This is a completely different animal, and it is, because you're organizing franchisees. You're making sure the communication is there, the systems are there to service them. And I'd be honest with you, I learned that more so when for the first time I went to the IFA convention in San Antonio this year. And, you know, you'd be sitting with the guy, you know, I do tax preparation, and the guy next to me did, you know, marble countertops, and the guy to my right did, you know, hot wings or whatever, and we were all having the exact same conversation.
Exactly.
It wasn't a matter of what we were selling, it was how we service the franchisees. How do we make sure that they're successful, they're happy.
Yeah, well said. Yeah. Has technology played a role with Smart Tax? Right.
You know, it's a good question. I often get asked, gee, with the advent of TurboTax and you know, online this and online that, you know, how has that hurt or helped you? And the reality is, you know, if you walked into a tax preparation office 20 some odd years ago, they'd all be there with, you know, a stack of papers, probably a little, you know, organizer, and they'd whip out the pages as they needed them, and they'd fill them out with you staring at them. You go and, you know, and that person doing their own taxes 20 some odd years ago would probably have the same thing. They go to the library or wherever and pick up the forms and go home and sit at a table and fill it out. Well, they say that 60% of the people have paper pairs. 20 some odd years ago, it was 60% of the people had paper pairs. It hasn't hurt. The do-it-yourselfer is just using the better way to do it yourself at this point. Statistically speaking, it hasn't hurt a bit, and I would argue it helped us, because the do-it-yourselfer will make mistakes today, I would imagine, and made mistakes back in the day, more so than a professional would. But we now, as opposed to having the thick manual by us, you know, that we would refer to, now it's all digital. Now it's all updated constantly. A franchisee, for example, calls me and he's scratching his head and can't figure out a particular form or situation. Well, heck, you know, we're more knowledgeable. We can answer the question, or we can reach into their computer at this point and see what they see and kind of go, you know what, do it this way or do it that way. So technology probably has helped us a heck of a lot more than it's hurt us.
Wow, that's great. You have that ability too to actually look at the computer screen, what they're looking at too. You know, I mean, it really is fascinating. So it's like you said, it probably helps you more than hurts you. You know. So.
Oh, absolutely. That, and you know, another reason a franchise system would help is, you know, not everybody, as you know, as being a small business owner, you have to be a jack of all trades. One of the main components of a tax office, as you can imagine, is the computer systems. Well, I don't know about spooling on a printer and all these other things that inevitably will hang you up during the day. But being part of a franchise system like ours, you give us a call, we reach into the computer, you know, we straighten out the problem for you, and hopefully a lot quicker than you would have yourself. And that worry goes away.
Yeah, we were talking a little earlier on segment 1 too, Nick, about, you know, the great thing about franchising is sharing of best practices, you know, and that's going to be interesting as your franchise continues to get bigger and bigger, you know, is the sharing of best practices, what works, what doesn't work, you know, so just so many great advantages into getting into franchising, so it really is fantastic. Nick, we have to take a quick break. Are you able to stick around for another segment?
Sure, no problem.
Thanks. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Franchise Interviews. For over 2 years now, Franchise Interviews has been giving you an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys.
And our free franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise.
And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919. Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the franchipreneur who owns one. I'm your host Marty McDermott with my co-host Don Johnson, and if you've ever dreamed of owning your own business, you've come to the right place. We have a great show today because we're meeting with the founder of Smart Tax, Nick Rizzi, and Smart Tax is a franchise opportunity that differentiates itself by the rest from delivering top quality, professional services while allowing franchisees to focus more on a quality of life. And Don, I think you're up.
Yeah, Nick, Now that you've had a few franchisees, is there any specific characteristics that you're looking for as you sign on new franchisees? Anything about their background you want them to have to be successful to own a Smart Tax?
Well, as far as what they've done in the past, it seems to run the gamut. But we have single moms looking to work a few months out of the year. We maybe have semi-retired folks that aren't quite ready to do nothing. At least work-wise, so they've joined on board. Those are the types of people that we've found so far. Characteristics, we often like to say we can teach you how to do a tax return. A little training, we can get that done, and we'll support you. That's not a problem. The marketing, the one of the things that you're building with a business like this, you're not giving them a physical item, you're not giving them a hamburger or a lollipop or anything like that. You're building relationships. I think that my background helped because that's basically what I did. You built relationship with customers, and that's something I can't really teach. We can talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, they need to be the ones that are able to go out there and kiss the babies and make them want to come back time after time. Once you've shown a level of competence preparing their tax return, they'll be back. But they have to have a good feeling, a good experience while they're there with you. Usually, if you're asking me specifically what kind of a person would excel at something like this, someone that's had some kind of over-the-desk type training or background, whether they worked in an office or, a bank like myself or insurance office or anything like that, where they do deal with customers on that kind of level, someone who's, quite frankly, comfortable with numbers. I remember taking a scuba diving class once, and one of the students asked, "Gee, do you need to know how to swim to scuba dive?" And the teacher at the time said, "Well, no, the object is to sink." And he was right. It is the object of scuba diving is to sink. So, do you need to know how to do taxes to get into the tax business? The answer is no. But quite frankly, you need to be comfortable in the water.
Right.
So, as long as you're comfortable with numbers, we can train you the rest. And if you have the ability to like I like to say, kiss the babies and make sure that you're a likable fellow, you'll do just fine.
And maybe talk about training a little bit, Nick. How's that program you put together?
Training. Well, training is a combination of two things that we've put together. Some of it is online training. It's tax preparation. Once you've completed that, we now know that you know how to speak the language of tax, right? You know what a 1040 is. You know what all that good stuff is. Once you've completed the online training, we take it for about 5 days, and we go over as much as things that you would imagine: tax preparation, day-to-day operations of the business. Again, how to train, hire, how to manage your staff, and of course the marketing, how to use the systems that we're going to supply you with. That takes about 5 days, and quite frankly, I mean, if this first round is any indication, after those 5 days, you're walking out of there pretty much like a champ. We got you squared away. And once tax season, I don't know if you know what tax season would be like, but you don't show up at your accountant's office till maybe late January, if not a little later.
Right.
So that those 1 or 2 weeks of fine tuning, we're there to train you as well. We go over scenarios. We make sure all the levers and buttons work in your office.
Right.
And that's pretty much how we train you, and we've had success with that so far. And of course, it's ongoing. That we get together every 2 weeks on a webinar. If not me, quite frankly, coming by your office to help you out with any issues you might have.
So a typical day is I guess it depends on the situation. I imagine like a typical day today in a smart tax is going to be pretty busy for the next several weeks, Nick. And again, when you go to November, where it's much quiet, so there isn't really a typical day, is there?
No, there is no typical. Listen, if all goes well, you're inundated with tax returns to do. That would be the perfect day. But the reality is there's plenty of time in there to get your marketing done. You want to go out there and you want to visit local businesses, let them know you exist. Make sure local schools, businesses, synagogues, churches, what have you, organizations, just to let them know that you're in the community and that you want to be part of it. To that end, you mentioned November, and one of the things that I think differentiates us from the other franchises is, in tax preparation anyways, we don't require you to be open past April 15th.
Wow.
We have a call center where, like I said, we reach into your computer. Well, we've got all the information in front of us. If a customer calls in June, for example, with a question or concern, we're able to take care of that for the franchisee, and everybody seems to like that. So. Oh,
absolutely. This is where that quality of life comes in.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fantastic. A lot of our listeners, or the majority of our listeners, Nick, are aspiring, I guess you can call them entrepreneurs. Sometimes we call them franchipreneurs, looking to buy a franchise. What advice would you give to our listeners in their quest for buying a franchise?
Look at what's out there. Decide what kind of business you'd like to be involved with. Franchipreneurs or entrepreneurs in general, if you're looking to build a lasting business for yourself, I would suggest franchising is very much worth looking into. Like I said, I made plenty of mistakes in the past. A lot of those would go away with a franchise. The amount of time spent and money wasted in the beginning just trying to figure it out, that goes away with franchising. So I would say those are probably the big factors in choosing a franchise.
Yeah, no, it's well said. That's great. And what's the best way for our listeners, Nick, to get more information on becoming a smart tax franchisee? Is there a website they can go to? Sure. Are there any numbers that they can call?
I would just direct them to our website. Our website is thesmartwaytofile.com.
Oh, good.
Smartwaytofile.com, yeah. And on there you'll get all the information you'll need to get in touch with us and have a conversation.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Nick. You've been a wonderful guest, and we'd love to have you back next year as you guys continue to grow.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Don.
Thanks so much, Nick. Have a great day.
Job.
Great concept, huh, Don?
Yeah, it's interesting. With all the competition, it didn't worry him at all because, there's millions of people who need to get their taxes done.
Yeah, I think Nick was referencing the number 165 million taxes filed each year, And again, we've seen that before because we've done this kind of show before. There's still so many mom and pop tax franchises out there, you know what I mean? So, So there's still plenty of business out there. This market is huge.
I think I saw it's either the fifth or sixth largest or fastest growing industry in the country.
Well, it just makes sense, you know. I mean, again, it's too complicated, you know. Again, I have all these degrees, and you know what? I still have someone file our taxes just because it's so complicated. You look at the forms,
right.
that, you know, when you get them back. I mean, it looks like a book, you know. So it's complicated, you know. So have someone do them for you. It just makes life so much easier, you know. So, but you did a great job today, Don, on segment one. Have a great show in Washington, D.C. I know you're going to be signing some autographs, and we'll have another great show next week.
Okay, Marty.
Take care, Don. Thanks, everyone, for listening.